I understand that the frequent pivots and updates are frustrating. Believe me, I share the same sentiment. But I want you to know we're working hard to listen and get back to you with information as soon as we have it. I know there's been a bottleneck in residential life with the amount of room change requests. The team is working diligently to get through this and get back to you. To help, we're bringing on additional staff to answer calls and emails. If you have questions, please see the FAQ on ResLife's website first before calling and email in. This will help relieve some of the congestion that we're seeing. This week, several policies were released that speak to the residential hall, guest access, and access to campus. Additional policies and updates will be coming out this week and early next week, including contact tracing, face coverings, testing, guidelines for addressing student behavior, student events and gathering, off-campus behavior expectations, and hopefully no more. I'm getting tired of writing them, but they're a necessary evil right now as we deal with COVID. So as policies continue to come out, it's important that you review them and ask questions by sending them to the COVID-19 account. Many of these policies will set the behavioral and community expectations for this entire campus for the 2021 academic year. I know many of these policies are restrictive in nature and do not allow the traditional experiences at the university. However, they are in place to address the necessary reality that COVID is here, will be with us for the foreseeable future, and therefore we must continue to adapt, constantly pursue safe ways to deliver an engaging educational experience for students while building community. That's a tough challenge to have as we deal with the pandemic. So to help you become more familiar with our new public health related COVID-19 UHart policies, as you may not be familiar with what contact tracing means, for instance, Jess will be able to fill you in on a ton of that information. And for general education regarding COVID-19 and the reopening of campus, all students will be invited to partake in an online training prior to the start of classes. The training announcement will come via email to you in the near future and can be completed on your smartphone or computer tablet in about a half hour. Amidst all the social distancing and protocols, the entire campus community has worked diligently to deliver on this experience while creating a safe campus environment. That's my son in the background, so if you hear him chime in, he may pop in. So with that being said, you undoubtedly know and have already come to realize that this fall will be very different. As we prepare to return, here are 4 things that we'll need to focus on as a community so that we can continue to operate safely through the fall semester. So number 1, so we need to adopt a mindset that we are one community, and therefore we have a social responsibility toward each other. COVID is no one's fault, but all students, faculty, and staff included must do what is necessary to keep everyone safe. So that means committing to the pledge that's up on the web, wearing masks and social distancing, refraining from parties on or off campus, following quarantine and isolation guidelines, participating in contact tracing when necessary, and making behavioral choices that consider the health and safety of yourself, the UHart community, and surrounding communities. I know this is a lot to ask, and it's actually counter to what we naturally do as people when we interact. But this is the necessary reality we have to work through as we deal with the challenges of the pandemic. I was recently on campus today and had a chance to talk with some of the SRAs, and one of them asked point blank, so what if I go off campus to visit a boyfriend? What are you going to do about it? Like, what can you do? And I said, you're right, I can't stop you from going on. But part of that mindset as one community is that our choices have to not only consider ourselves, but others. And so it was a wonderful conversation, and these are conversations that we hope to continue with you as we work through some of these challenges. So that's number 1. Number 2, developing healthy habits. So filling out the Live Safe app daily. So I actually got called out. I'm going to admit right now, I came to campus, my own public safety team had said, hey, did you fill out the Live Safe app? And I had to look at them and go, no, I didn't fill out the Live Safe app. And was completely embarrassed, but they were great about it. They handled it really well and it just reminded me how hard it is to create these kind of habits. We're going to have to create these habits as we enter this semester. And so they were super positive, and that's the thing. When people ask you to remind you to do these things, we're going to be really positive about it. We want to embrace this behavioral change as a community. So number 3, encouraging others and modeling the way. So frequently reminding each other about wearing masks and social distancing. We got to normalize these conversations. This has to become part of our regular interactions right now. So if you see someone coming near you and they don't have a mask, hey man, just put a mask on. Let's not make it a thing where we point out people. or we point out as a negative. We just got to say, hey, as a community, this is what we're committing to. So it's really important that we do that. And then number four, and the last one is helping us find creative ways to have fun and engage in a community safely. So the fall opening group, the Office of Student Engagement and Inclusion, and Residential Life have all worked really hard on finding creative ways for us to actually gather and come together socially. So we don't have it all figured out, so we're going to need your help. So if you have ideas or suggestions that you would like to pose to us, get it to Res Life, the fall opening group, get it to the Office of Student Engagement and Inclusion, and let's see if we can make it happen. There is no playbook for how to do this. We are all working with the best information we can get from the state, CDC, and the health guidelines to make this experience happen. So I'm going to encourage you all to continue to use your voice and speak up as we plan to reopen in the fall. So I want to thank you all again for coming on, and I'm going to shut up now so we can get some questions answered. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jess.
Sure. So we have tons of questions, but before we pivot to the Q&A, and I feel like it's going to be who was on the parent hour, Jill, when we ended up doing the lightning round. We're like, we have to get all these questions answered. Does anyone else on the panel want to offer any sentiments or comments or general anything before we jump into the Q&A? And I didn't tell them I was going to do this. So Jaden.
Yeah, I just want to say that I've talked to a lot of students recently, and I understand the concern also being a student and just the worry that we have. And I understand that a lot of things are still happening, but from also working at the university and working at the Office of Residential Life for the past couple of weeks, things change hourly, sometimes daily, other times. It's something that it's a give and a take, and it's a balance that we have to find together. So we're here as a panel for you to listen to you and hear your concerns and your ideas. And we want to give you the best experience that we can, not only as a community, but also as an educational institution. So if we can just find that balance and be respectful of one another and respectful of the policies, it would be probably the best thing that we can do for each other right now.
Thank you. That's awesome. All right, panelists, you ready for some questions? So I'm going to try to find the biggest themes that address, some of the most frequently asked things, and anyone feel free to jump in. Can students go home during the semester and return? Can students leave to work? Can students, come on and off campus?
Yeah, so students are permitted to come on and off campus. If students are in quarantine, they won't be able to do that. But they will be able to leave campus. Again, the purpose is that they're following the state CDC guidelines when they're interacting with an internship or a job, practicing the social distancing, wearing a face mask. But students will be able to come on and off campus, working with public safety. They're going to have their IDs, they're going to have special stickers on them so we know that they're current students. Also, we're looking at stickers for their cars and vehicles so that we know that they're current students that they're permitted on campus, in addition to having them fill out the Live Safe app daily.
Great. Jill, I'm seeing a lot of questions about early drop-off dates, details, things like that. Can you speak at all to that? Oh, you're muted. Yep. Oh, you're still muted, Jill.
So I'm seeing some questions about early arrival, but it's also hard to read and to answer. So Jess, help me if I miss parts. So one of the questions that I saw was that the time slots for early drop-off are every 2 hours. Can I still stay 4 hours? Absolutely. We staggered the time by 2 hours so that we wouldn't have the bottleneck at the beginning when you're picking up your keys to be able to go to your space. So we have students coming in every 2 hours. You can unload your items. And then the expectation is if you want to stay more than 2 hours, to just please move your car so the next group of students will be able to park as closely as possible to their living space and then move their things in from there. You can bring up to 3 people from your current household with you this weekend. And, we're really excited to be here. Just so you know, we are not completely finished. Norm and I were on a call earlier today with the residence halls. There's still some work that's being done. really exciting work actually, that's, more significant work. But we will let you know if there are those things to expect in your rooms, but also just expect that there's going to be another once over for most of those rooms from our housekeeping team. And if there are any issues that people happen to see, we probably have them on our list, but if you would like to make sure that we for sure don't miss them, please let us know. And Jess, I don't know what else is about early. You're going to have to help me out.
So maybe you just said this as I'm reading them, 4-hour window to move in, but they're only showing 2-hour time blocks.
Correct. And that's because we just didn't want to have so many people sitting up at the front in A lot waiting to pick up their keys. So it's just staggered. And then, like I said, we will allow you to park for 2 hours very close to your building. And then we ask if you stay 2 more, just please move your vehicle so that the next group can park and not have to carry their items so far. And I'll post that in the chat too.
And if students sign up for early drop off, do they also need to sign up for a time when they actually come to move in to live on campus?
Ideally, yes, just so that when we are checking you in, we have to take your keys back from you after early drop off. So you will have to go through an express line when you come in. So we want to make sure that we're just staggering that a bit. You don't have to, but just to ensure we have fewer people and your wait time is less, we would really encourage you to sign up for a move-in time starting on August 24th.
All right, we'll transition a bit as I go through these. I neglected to introduce RJ McGivney, but RJ, welcome. I was going through my order and then somebody's camera went off and then it like shuffled everybody. So my apologies. You can introduce yourself, but I'm getting a couple questions about where students might be able to go to do small study groups or meet to study other than the library. And I know you're doing some work. And there's also some questions about where commuters can go and the commuter lounge. And I know Lanya and RJ, maybe together you could help address those.
Sure, I'll go with at least the classrooms and Lanya can hop in after. So we've identified 4 classrooms on campus that will be shared. We actually have shared with the Commuter Association. Lindsay Cote has 4 classrooms that are going to be dedicated for students to do study groups. And sort of the irony of all this is we have a lot of classrooms that actually are not going to be suitable classrooms because of social distancing. So we have earmarked these 4 courses or 4 classrooms rather, but there's going to be vacant classrooms sort of all over the place, especially after 5 o'clock. So if groups are looking to meet, rooms, the nice thing with those rooms are set up for social distancing already. There's clearly marked signs of where you can sit and where you can't sit. So those are definitely going to be open for clubs if they're interested in using that space or for groups looking to study, smaller groups.
As far as the commuter lounge is concerned, it is still open for commuters, just at reduced capacity. So currently for 10 individuals. So just asking students to follow guidelines and social distance while there.
I have several questions. I'm going back and forth between the Q&A and the chat. Several questions about eating, dining, how, what establishments will be open? How is eating going to work? If Mike and Jeff want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure, thank you. So right now, we all of our dining halls will be open, folks, with the exception of PAC. We've had to make some pivots at PAC for occupancy restrictions and just some operational changes there. What you'll see when you come back is things really haven't changed as far as your locations. The way we're going to serve you is going to be quite different. We're following strict state of Connecticut and CDC guidelines. So our occupancy in all of our locations is mandated at 50%. We have technology in place that's going to be monitoring that for you folks. So we know exactly how many people in our locations at any given time. With that, we've also taken a pattern and a methodology, if you will, of all of our locations across campus. And we've looked at our behaviors in the past and how we operate and how we move. And we've looked at those high touch areas and we've taken things off and out of locations per se that were high touch. And then we've gone ahead and moved our staff and moved our operations to adapt to be able to meet the needs of the CDC cleaning guidelines and dining operations. What you're going to see when you get back is really oases of hospitality in this desert of uncertainty. So I could assure you that when you get back, your dining experiences will be safe, and we have a team that is here to meet you with any of your questions or needs.
Just one specific question. If you have the highest end meal plan, can you come and go from the meal dining services as often as you want?
Yes, that great question. Thank you for that. So, look, part of this is you're still going to be able to come and go as you please at Commons. You'll still be able to come and go out of our operations as you please, as our residency, as our occupancy allows. We have opened up a robust to-go program in all of our operations. We've also partnered with Grubhub, so that folks, you'll be able to order your Grubhub on campus. You'll also be able to get meal equivalencies via Grubhub. There'll be hotspot areas that you'll be able to go and pick up your meals. So we've taken a lot of things into consideration that will give you the opportunity to flex and use as much of your meal plan as you did in the past. And truthfully, in some instances, you'll be able to use it even more. We didn't allow you to order meal equivalencies in the past on Grubhub. Now you will have that ability and that flexibility. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. I'll keep digging for meal related questions. Is that the all access first year plan? Is that the one you're referring to?
So we have two.
Someone wants an explanation of the first year all access meal plan.
Sure. So first year all access, 7 days. That's exactly what it is. All access, come and go as Commons, which is our residential all you care to enjoy facility. Then you have with that a certain amount of dining dollars applied to that. The 7-day premium plan allows you 7-day all access to the Commons. It also allows you meal equivalencies in our retail operations as well as at Starbucks. That is the plan that allows you the most amount of flexibility right now of our offerings.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to just knock out a couple of these. I'm seeing a couple questions. I don't know if this is Aaron, Jill, or Norm, about cords required for hooking up cable and internet in the rooms. Let's see. What is internet TV? That was one question. And there was another one I'm trying to find about what kind of cords to bring. I will find it.
I think Yuli or Jaden would be great to answer that question because they've lived on campus for a couple of years. Can you speak to that?
Sure, I can try to. So for example, if you want to connect your desktop, you have the ability to bring an Ethernet cord, I believe. And Norm, you're going to have to check me on these answers because it's less of a school and more of an experience thing. Trial and error. As well as the same thing goes for the TVs. I know that Xfinity is granted on campus, and a lot of students choose to use it. A lot of them simply, benefit from the Wi-Fi to choose streaming services. I actually have not seen a TV in quite a while, so. But I think just the regular cable. There's nothing super special, nothing to fill out. But an Ethernet cable should work for your desktop, and the same thing should be work for your TV cables.
Great. So we're jumping around topics, but I'm just trying to knock these out. Dean Isaacs, this came up today, so this is very timely. Someone needs to go home most weekends. Can this person's dad come to the dorm to pick them up?
Yes. So what they'll need to do is go ahead and fill out the campus access form. And what that does is it just notifies public safety that we have someone coming on campus and that they'll be able to drive right up. We're asking that you stay in the vehicle and you can pick up your student, take them to where they need to go. So that is allowed. You just have to fill out the form when you come to campus. So, a lot of the baseline for why we're doing this is again, contact tracing. So it's a preventative way, in case we do have to contact trace, we have a record of who's on campus. It's really important in maintaining the safety of this campus. So that's what folks will have to do when they're looking to come to campus.
Are students allowed to visit other dorms with masks on?
No, we are not allowing that this semester as we start out. Students need to stay in their own residential spaces. These are spaces that we know students spend, it's their home. So it's a way that you spend time differently in your home than you do in other places. And so we are starting the semester saying that in your bedroom, which is basically your housing unit, if you're in a suite or apartment, or for first year students, that's the room you're assigned to. Only the people that are living in that unit are able to be there. We're also hoping that will help for those that have roommates to be able to not have to worry about negotiating if one roommate is comfortable with having guests and the other isn't, because there are already a lot of unknowns and things people are pretty uncomfortable with. However, we know that socialization is really important. In fact, for the last 20 years of my career, we've spent all the time figuring out how do we bring people together. In the last 3 months, we've been thinking about how do we keep people apart. So it's really odd and it feels really crummy, to be honest, at times. So we're really looking for places that we can say you can connect. RAs are looking to do more activities outside, have open office hours outside, virtual office hours. I'll let them talk about that. We're ordering some new lawn games and just activities and giveaways. There are common spaces in not every building, but most buildings, and we're going to allow students to be in those spaces as long as they are wearing masks and strictly following social distancing guidelines. Students will need to have masks on everywhere that they are. That would be a hallway in all of the first year areas and in all of the returning student areas. The only place without masks will be your housing unit. And Yuli and Jaden, can you guys talk a little bit about all of the cool things that I know that you're planning?
I could talk a little bit about my talk with you and Dean Isaac about this. So, I mean, as a student, I think I was talking to Jill and Dean Isaac today about the guest policy, which I think is one of the things that students are most concerned, particularly because, as you said, Jill, you spent all this time figuring out how to get people to communicate better and to visit their roommates, and now we're thinking how to stay apart. And it's going to be difficult. The one thing that I can say in my role, it works both ways. I advocate for students, but I also help advocate the missions of administration to students. And in the mission to advocate for students, in my talks with Jill and Dean Isaacs, I've come to understand why to be such a strict policy. And I just think it's because the stakes are so high. And, you know, there's a really low threshold that we have to meet for it all to end and for us to shut down. And we really should be careful when we're bearing this responsibility on our shoulders, which I think is really unmatched. And some of us, myself, I would have the privilege if things shut down to go back and take all my classes online. But for some majors who are more practical, for some majors who have a performance component, those folks do not have the same privilege. So I'm not just ruining my dream, I'm ruining a few other people's dreams. One good caveat, though, is that this is a beginning rule. And I think Jill mentioned that. This is how it will start, and it's going to start pretty strict. If things go well, I think I have it on good faith from both Jill and Dean Isaacs that there will be a reevaluation of the rules.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on to that. I think what Yuli said was fantastic. Just that it's more of a community mindset, and just the faster we adhere to the guidelines, the more faster that they will go away. And I think what is really important that Yuli said was it's not just yours, because I also have majors that I can very likely do online pretty successfully, but there are a lot of people who don't. And not only that, but there are a lot of people who once they're off campus don't have the resources to do classes online. And we want to make sure that as a university, as a community, that we allow those students to also be a part of our community and grow and learn, because that is what the point of our educational institution is. Another thing is it'll be a very important conversation that you have between yourself and your RA with, I'm more comfortable with being outside if we do these kinds of meetings, or I'm comfortable being in the hallway with my mask on. And not only with your RA, but also with your roommates and other residents. If you are more comfortable having interactions online than socially distanced outside, the communication for that is going to be key. And just making sure that we all follow these guidelines and keep each other safe. So the sooner we adhere to them, the sooner they can hopefully go away.
Yeah, I think that's really a great point. It's on all of us, and we know that as a community, we're going to be, evolving and doing this together. It's going to take some time, but you're right. If we're doing it, then and we're doing it right, we might be able to lift some of those restrictions. So really good points. Let's transition. There's a number of questions which we expected there would be. It's taken us a while to wrap our heads around this and what the state wants about quarantining when you come to campus, specifically students from the travel advisory states. So, for example, if folks are coming from states on the travel advisory list, but they start their quarantine in a non-travel advisory state, is that okay? Can they finish their quarantine when they get here? And what, can they go in their regular rooms if they're in a single to finish out their quarantine? So maybe just talking about the quarantine process, would be helpful. And I can do that, or Aaron or Jill or whoever wants to take that one.
I'm happy to jump on that. So based on the state guidelines that are out there right now, you can go ahead and start your quarantine, if you're in a non-advisory state. So if you come to the state of Connecticut and you want to start your quarantine before coming on campus, you can do so, and then you can finish it up on campus. The way we're doing it right now is if you have a single as your assignment, you're able to go into that single and quarantine there. And so quarantine, means you'll have to wear a mask. Again, that's the guidelines across campus. You'll be able to go out and get food. We worked with Aramark. We have a separate space for you to go ahead and pick up your food. And Mike can talk a little bit more about that and how it's going to work over at 1877 Club in order to do that. So how we're looking at quarantine for folks. So if you are from an advisory state and your roommate is not, we're going to go ahead and find you a space to go ahead and quarantine, separate from your roommate. And so you're able to quarantine with other folks from advisory states. So you may be paired up with somebody. So we're working with Res Life, and Jill's team's doing an incredible job sorting through that. The challenge there is that the advisory states come off and on. And so these numbers keep flexing. And so, part of some of the bottleneck we're experiencing in Res Life is it changes our numbers and our occupancy and how we house folks. But that's what we're doing, with students in quarantine. I don't know if Jill wants to add anything to that.
Thanks, Aaron. And, I think it's been something that we've been talking a lot about, and we've gotten certainly a lot of questions from parents. Just to clarify, you can quarantine in your room in a single if you are in a traditional style residence hall. So that would be Hawk and then the neighborhoods A through F. If you happen to be in a single, but you're assigned to Regents, Park River, or the Village, and you have other people that are in your suite or apartment that are not from states that are with the travel restriction, you will have to be in another space to quarantine unless the entire apartment decides that they're going to quarantine together, which is an option. So we really just want to keep people safe. We want to make sure that people feel like they have some options. We know it's not ideal, but we're doing all the things that we can do to be open and to be able to engage with one another here on campus, which we know that everyone desperately wants to do, and stay in class, of course. I mean, that's the whole reason you're here.
If I could just jump in there, Jill and Dean. Also, from a dining standpoint, we've been working closely with the university. So we've taken the Gray Conference Center, the 1877 Club, and folks that are from those hotspot states will have a separate dining option in that location. They will have the same offerings that we're offering to the rest of our guests across campus. So not to worry. There's a safe way to do it, and we have that plan in place. We'll work through all dietary restrictions, all religious restrictions, or needs. Any want or need will be met. I can assure you that.
And just looking at some of the other quarantine questions, yes, once you're done with the quarantine period, you can move in with the roommate that you were planning on living with. Doesn't matter where they're from, that's fine. And sorry, that's lots of quarantine questions. Also, something that we're working on is once we identify when you started quarantine, because we know some people are trying to come early to get their quarantine started. If you have to start your classes remotely to finish out your quarantine, we'll be letting your instructors know. So we'll be tracking that and working with you on that. So you're not going to be kind of out on your own, floating around, trying to figure out what to do. We'll have people designated to help you with that. Someone had also asked about, do we have space set aside for students that might test positive or be symptomatic? And will somebody be checking in on them? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we do have space set aside in the village units for students who do test positive. So we have about 260 beds that will be used for students who test positive for COVID. We'll be working with our health services who will be checking in with them via telehealth, and someone will be coming by to check on them daily to make sure they're doing okay. So we do have space set aside for this. Again, if students are able to return home safely, and they're able to do that in a manner that doesn't jeopardize, maybe a family member who has a immune compromised, or they're able to safely travel maybe in their own vehicle to get home, we're going to encourage you to do that as well. So you're comfortable. And again, we're going to monitor students who are in those spaces and take good care of them.
I'm going to ask a fun question. If you're in a double room by yourself, are you allowed to use the other set of furniture?
So I just answered that. Thinking about the same things, Jess. If you happen to be in a super single and you're a first year student, absolutely, because we're not taking furniture out. So you can have a giant bed, you can have double dressers and a big closet. Although please don't bring too much stuff. We've been encouraging people to not bring, yes, Jaden, you're like, yes. But if you happen to be in a room right now where there is not another roommate, we're still actually going through, we have about 100 students, over 100 students that still need to be assigned to rooms. We were doing a little bit of swapping and moving around without adding those students in, but they will likely be placed in rooms either tomorrow or early next week. So don't expect, if you happen to be in a room by yourself right now, that it's going to stay that way. And you will need to make sure that furniture stays available, because we want to be welcoming to any individuals that might come to share. And I see Yuli, breathing, and Jaden. So do you have any comments about, that?
Sorry, it took me a second to get myself off mute. Yeah, I think it's really good, especially if you're in one of the super singles. Advice, when I was a freshman, I also had a single. I used the second bed as a couch. So if you're like, what am I going to do with this other bed? You can definitely utilize it, be creative. But also if you're in a double and you don't know if you're going to get another roommate, if you're utilizing that furniture, that's fine, but make sure that you're not, as Jill said, we want to make sure that we're welcome to other people that might come into the room. So just keep that in mind, keep an open mind with that as well, because we're really a community that cares for one another. And I guess that's why we're even having this tonight, is just because we really want to show that we care.
Jess, if I can take the reins for a second, I think there's a question that's in your element, and you and Lonnie can help answer it. It's a beautiful one. I think it's a parent wondering what mental health resources will be offered for students, facing all these difficulties. So how will CAPS be working? And Lanya, we can talk a little bit about our programming.
Yep. Wow, turning the tables on the host, huh, Yuli? Keeping me on my toes. Sure. So CAPS will still be fully staffed, fully functioning. The preference, everything will be by appointment only. In most cases, they'll probably try to do virtual meetings, because anybody who's ever been in CAPS knows that those spaces can be tight. But we also will have CAPS staff members, on campus to support. So we have a group right now that Jaden's actually a member of, that was the pledge group that kind of turned into the student engagement, and it has a weird name of like school spirit and rules, or, we don't really know what it is, but something that has come out of that too is maybe bringing back a health and wellness club. Anyone who knows Kenna Grant and Jennifer Siegel are interested in starting like a health ambassadors and a why am I feeling this way, and some kind of affinity groups around processing what we're dealing with. Whether, it be because we're remote or we feel isolated, or, we have anxiety. So there are a number of pockets, looking at other ways to kind of handle some of this stuff as well, in addition to the traditional CAPS. But CAPS will be there. And actually, this is a good opportunity to just say all of your offices will be there. CSS will be there, the Bursar, financial aid, career services, everybody's going to be fully staffed. I would say in most cases, make an appointment. I think because of the way our staffing is, and having to, have some days you work from home and some days you come in, and because again, we want to keep everyone safe and not have, kind of like bottlenecking outside the outside the offices. You know, everyone will be there. Everyone is there for you, but I would definitely call, email before you arrive. So, and we're really trying to push hard, and you'll probably appreciate this, for a paperless fall as much as possible. So most things, as we saw in the spring, change of majors, you know, most paperwork can be handled electronically, and we want to try to honor that as well to keep everybody safe. And Lanya, I'm going to turn the tables to you. Are there any plans, and I read a beautiful document this week, are there any plans where clubs can actually meet in person? And what will that look like?
I'll hand that to Yuli, and then I'll talk about activities.
So, hi everyone. So again, as president of SGA, we essentially oversee all the clubs and we cooperate strongly. We're part of the larger family of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the Office of Student Engagement and Inclusion at the university. So it's been difficult. It's been a process. What I'm really thankful for is that there's some people who are fighting so hard for students to have an experience, and Lanya is one of those people. She is my partner in arms. And the truth is, yes. Will it look the same as it looked in other years? Absolutely not, unfortunately, simply because we are constrained. However, we are working our best, and SGA has pledged an insane amount of its resources, and both human and financial, to assuring that clubs will have an ability to meet in person as long as they are respecting social guides. We are, again, putting a lot of faith in our students, mostly because we know how much they enjoy cooperating with one another, how much they enjoy these common topics. To answer another question that I think was mentioned was, will all clubs be permitted to function? I think our pledge for this year is to let all clubs function to some capacity. However, there needs to be an understanding that we are extremely constrained, especially by state regulation, as to what we can allow and we cannot allow. So your club might not be the same club that you left last year, but the people in the club will be the same. That we can guarantee. And you'll have the same funding, whether it is for social events, as long as everything is, you know, respectful of the measure. And again, this is only, I think, the fruit of the labor of many, many people, both students and administrators, who have worked really hard for students to get that experience. So there will be, again, a hybrid version.
Beautiful. So
I miss you, Lanya.
So our office has been working, as Yuli said, diligently to make sure that the student experience when you return to campus, whether it's for the first time or coming back as a returning students, our Hartford Events and Activities team, known as the HEAT, has been working diligently to bring activities this fall, virtual and in-person activities. So Tuesday trivia nights, for example, by Zoom, and Friday flicks, which are movie series that are planned, and you have to register for those events. And of course, we have to adhere to guidelines and capacity restrictions. But there's so many events that are happening. There's a Target takeover for first-year students where students will be shuttled to Target to pick up, you know, last-minute items that they may need. And so we are working diligently to make sure that students have a great experience when they come back. One of the first activities that we'll have on August 28th is a March on UHart, where our students are planning to commemorate the March on Washington by hosting a march on campus. And we are working to plan that event so students who would like to participate can do so. So, yeah.
Thank you. And this is a good opportunity to say, you know, tonight's probably not the night because we have a lot of questions. But if you have ideas for things you want to see, things you want to do, you know, let us know, you know, let Wooly know, let Jada know, Lanya, me, anybody. Because in our groups, you know, of course I come up with a list of things that I think would be really fun, but I'm old. So we want to know what you think is fun, not what I think is fun. So, you know, we do really want to hear those things, you know, because we don't want to be planning events that nobody goes to or don't seem interesting, or so definitely let us know. We have some questions about testing. So some questions about why we're choosing to test, how we're choosing to test. And like everything else that we've spoken about, we're taking the state guideline, which is 5 to 10% of the residential population each week. Faculty and staff can get tested as well. And if commuters need to be tested because of contact tracing, they can also be tested. So, why aren't we testing everybody every week? So we're beginning with starting with the recommendations from the state. That's what the state has recommends. That's what some of our peers are doing, not all of our peers, but we can always adjust and do more if we're starting to see that we need to. A reason why we're not doing more testing, there's a couple reasons, is that, at one point in time and still now, if we're testing and testing everybody every week, that just contributes to the backlog. And I'm sure some of you have seen some of the data coming out that testing isn't the answer to everything. It's everything all together. So we have a very robust contact tracing program that we're building. We have the testing program, which we can expand, should we need to, but we're starting out with the state recommendations. And it's really, we know about wearing masks, social distancing, washing our hands, and doing those things. And a fear is that if you have this super, I guess I'll say robust again, testing policy, is that it might give people a false sense of security that, well, I'm negative, so I'm good to go. And really, it's the combination of all of those things that's going to keep us safe. So we're going to be watching our data so very carefully. And we are all committed to saying if at any point things don't look right, we're seeing patterns, we're getting concerned, we're seeing the numbers go up, we're going to change course. So again, we're starting with the recommendation that we've been given, but there's, if we need to, we will certainly expand on that. I just realized.
Jess, can I point your attention to another theme?
Yeah, sure.
I think there are a lot of questions regarding common spaces, including where there is library, the gym, and how those will function, especially even other types of, I guess, common spaces, even those that are in residential areas. So Jill, this might also be your forte.
So in terms of residential spaces, I think I had explained this to you earlier, what your card gets you to. So when you enter a building, if you're able to get to a common space, you are allowed to be in that common space and to engage with other people. Certainly, we want to encourage that in safe ways. Each common space will have a posted occupancy, so it will be less, and furniture will be spread apart, and there will also be stickers or signs that say, if we have a love seat, one person per love seat to sit there, so that we can make sure that we maintain social distancing at all times. The bigger spaces, you can have more people there, again, masked and being responsible. We also expect students to clean up after themselves and make sure that, we're not leaving a mess and, doing things in smart ways. And again, we will continue to look for other ways, I think, to create those spaces as we're able to.
I'll just add, I'll jump in on to for Jengris, for student union, same thing is the occupancies are going to be posted in the spaces. It's also going to be up on 25 Live. So if you do have to reserve space, you'll be able to see, what is the permitted occupancy in those spaces, along with cleaning supplies are going to be in there, and the expectation is that you'll wipe down after you use those spaces. And so right now, the state guidelines for indoor gatherings is set at 25 folks, and then for they have different guidelines for outdoor depending on the event. So that's what we're going to be following, working with the Office of Engagement and Inclusion and SGA from our events. But from an events perspective, we're going to try to make as much virtual as we can while still holding some in-person events in some of those common spaces we typically use.
And Aaron, if I could just jump in as well, the library will be very similar to that. There's been some social distancing arrangements set up there, so you won't be able to use every computer terminal and sit at every chair, but we'll have that all signed. And even places like in the new Barney School area, that new atrium, and the one at the Shaw Center, we've removed some of the furniture. We've got some signage in there, so you'll be able to use it. We'll just keep the distancing going.
We don't have anybody on from athletics, but there are a couple questions about will the gym be open to non-athletes? Does anyone know? That might be one I have to follow up on. I'm not sure.
My understanding and in a conversation I had today was that the pool will not be open to non-athletes. And I believe they're going to be using it for one of the programs as well, but that will not be open for general use. And I am not sure about the rest of the area.
I'll follow up. We'll print everybody's names and questions and we'll follow up on that for sure. We're getting a lot of themes. Oh, you can answer it. Sorry, there's a lot of questions, but you guys are doing a good job answering them also. Sorry, quick pause.
I'll just respond to one while you're looking.
Yeah.
There's a question about fashion show tryouts this semester. So that is a student-led event, the BSU fashion show. So we will have to wait and see what the organization decides and still adhering to guidelines. So
Lonnie, I think you're going to have to qualify that it's not just a student event. The fashion show is the student event.
thank you.
A question came up: if the roommate tests positive, what happens to the roommate? So in general, what will happen is if a person tests positive, they become what's called a case. And I did all the contact tracing, so I've super nerded out on all the contact tracing knowledge for you. They become a case, so then you would go to isolation if you're staying on campus. If you're somebody who is high risk, that means that you spent 15 minutes or more with that person in close proximity without a mask on. So in the case of a roommate, you would likely also be quarantined. So that would mean for 14 days, you would be reached out to by a contact tracer. They would monitor your symptoms, make sure, check in with you, make sure you're okay, give you medical advice or resources or whatever you need. But in that case, you would not be able to go to class if you were identified as a close contact. So that doesn't mean that you're positive. It doesn't mean you're going to test positive, but it does mean to limit the spread that we would quarantine. I didn't see this question yet, but I know it's something that people are probably thinking about because we get it a lot from faculty. If someone tests positive in your class, that doesn't mean that the whole class ends up getting quarantined. Again, it's only if maybe if you had a small study group like somebody asked, or you had a tutoring appointment and you were in close proximity with somebody for 15 minutes, that's kind of the threshold for identifying your close cases. Your close contacts. So it doesn't mean that the entire class would necessarily have to be quarantined. So just keep that in mind. But you would absolutely know. We wouldn't have your roommate be a positive case and nobody contact you. You'll be reached out to by the contact tracers. I'm trying to ask things that are different. A couple of questions have come up about, will at what point would the university close, or will the university close when a certain number of cases are hit? Anyone want to mention that?
Yeah, so we're working right now. So we would of course work with the Department of Public Health, but right now, there hasn't been any threshold that's been set for us. We're looking at our clear indicator would be the number of people in isolation and in our isolation spaces. So using that as an indicator, but it'll involve the Department of Public Health in conversation with them in terms of our number of cases, but no threshold has been put out.
Dean Isaacs, do you want to talk? There's like a variety of different kind of questions about the strictness of the visitor policy. So in terms of not being able to have one friend over, or I don't want to, there's quite a few of them. Just a little bit about the visitor policy and not being able to go room to room, things like that.
Yeah, so, when we were looking at it, originally, some places were looking at having one guest, one person come in. And so the way we looked at it, we took a really strict approach to it. And part of it is contact tracing, limiting the spread should something happen, or someone contracted. So we're trying to minimize the contact. And as Yuli stated early, we're taking the strict approach to start, because we really want to see, how we respond to it, how people are able to do with it. And, if people are following guidelines and doing what they need to do, we're going to reevaluate it. And there may be opportunities later in the semester to go ahead and allow for some visitors. But we really have to make sure that behaviorally we spend the time and energy at the start to get people to make some of these changes. And it takes a little bit of time. And so we want to give space for students to do that. And if we can do this correctly, we'll go ahead and revisit that as the semester goes on.
RJ, is there social distancing separation in the classroom?
Why, yes, there is. That's how we spent our summer. Yeah, so we literally went into over 215 different classroom spaces this summer, and with tape measures, with tape, spacing out desks, removing chairs. Kaz is part of that exciting project this summer. There's placards on desks that saying you cannot sit here. So yeah, it's very well marked out. Facilities will be going through periodically, ensure that those signs and the markings all stay throughout the semester.
And RJ, I think we will be supplying cleaning supplies in those classrooms too, so they'll be sanitized after each use.
Yep, and there's also hand sanitizer stations for the students who are coming back. You're going to be like, where did all these hand sanitizer stations come from? But outside pretty much every classroom, there's hand sanitizer stations. So yes, faculty are going to encourage students to come in one at a time. The first person in sits the furthest from the door. The last person in sits closest to the door, and leave in reverse order. So there's going to be face masks available in every different academic department on campus. So students who forget their masks, like they might forget a pen, they'll forget their masks, there'll be a place for them to go to get that, and that'll all be communicated with the faculty.
While I'm scrolling through questions, because I just realized I'm still at the questions that were asked at 8:16. So, but I'm seeing a lot of repeat themes. So I'm gonna scroll through this. Is there anything? I mean, we've all been living this, right, for this summer, the planning. Is there anything that you think people should be asking that you are prepared to answer, that's on your mind, that you want people to know?
Jill and Aaron, I think this would be a great time for us to talk, for you two to talk, and me and Jada might be able to help a little bit about the early drop-off and move-in process, what that's going to look like, just so we can prepare the parents and the students as well.
Certainly. So we plan to send out an email tomorrow. So it's right before early drop-off, so people will know what to expect and what the different steps will look like when you get here. But the basics are that you'll go, you'll check in at the front of the campus. You will be expected that everyone in your car has completed the Live Safe app. So please download it and have it ready to go. You don't want to delay things, right, Dean Isaacs? You want to make sure that everybody's ready to go. You'll turn right, you'll go into Lot A. We'll have some different stations set up to welcome you. We'll be doing checking your ID to see who you are and verify what set of keys you should receive. Once you do that, we'll give you some instructions as to what you need to do when you're on campus, reminding people to wear masks. If somebody forgot one, we'll have some extra ones there that about parking and all those things. So we'll have some different reminders and things that we want to make sure that you will know. And then you will get to go on your way to go unload your car. And then up to 4 hours on campus with up to 3 people from your current household. When you're done, you'll exit out the main entrance of campus, and we will have one of our wonderful RAs, Jaden, Yuli, other people, waiting there to take your keys back. And then you will get those keys again when you come back to campus to move in. And so we have 5 days of early drop-off, and that's what it's going to look like. There's about 200 to 250 students that will be coming between 8:30 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. And then in terms of move-in, it will look similar but different. Again, people will come to the front entrance and again, have everything done and ready to go. You'll go back to A lot and people will be divided into different lines. If you did early drop off, you get to go kind of into an express line. And that's where we're saying, you know, sign up for what you're doing, our time slot, and that will help it go faster. And then those that did not do the early drop off will go into other lines. We will check you in officially to our Star Res system, and it's all paperless. And then we will have a housing contract for you to sign. And if you are a first year student, you should get your ID. A quick reminder, please send in your pictures to the ID office so that they don't have to harass you and we can have your ID ready to go. Especially in the first year areas, you need your ID to get in the building. So we really need you to have that. If you're a returning student, please bring that back with you. When you come that day, you'll also get the special sticker on your ID that says you're a residential student. If there are questions about testing, because remember, Jess likes to say no test, no key. We will have a special place that you can ask additional questions, or if you had problems loading your information, people that will be able to take it that day. But, you know, please come with that test. RAs can attest, we have been very strict with that. It's really important to the safety of our campus that we know people are coming to the best of our ability with a negative COVID test. You'll go through the check-in lines, get all of the information. Again, there'll be some reminders, and then we will send you on your way to where you're going. If you have not been done drop off, so this is your first time, you get up to 2 hours, and you may have up to one person in your building with you. When you go to your area, especially over the complexes or Hawk, you'll get to pull up, you will unload your items, and then someone will need to move that car immediately, and then you can come back and take your items to your room. If you're noticing a common thread, please don't bring too much stuff. Our hope is to be here all semester, but if for some reason we do have to go home a little bit early, you will be responsible for taking all of those items. I did also see a couple of questions about people that left items here. We have several buildings that are very full of student belongings right now. If you are doing early drop-off, we will have people there to work to find your boxes. We're not going to be able to deliver by then because we're still shifting people around and we don't want your things to go into a room that is not yours. So what we will do is Wednesday of next week, after the early process, drop-off process is done, and before we start moving, we will start delivering all of those items to students' rooms. And if for some reason we did not get an item right, or you were in a room where they were common items, you may have to come and kind of sift through the things there so that we know who those items belong to for this year. But we will have definitely have staff to assist with that, and we look forward to cleaning out those buildings. So please come get your stuff.
I see a question about if you're coming from a travel advisory state, but you get retested once coming to Connecticut and the test is negative, do you have to quarantine? Yes, and unfortunately, that's why it took us so long to get the testing and quarantine information out, is because that was one of those things that the state kind of reversed on us recently. So we were planning on you could end your quarantine or you could come onto campus if you had a negative test within 72 hours. And that's what we were going on and planning. And then the governor said a negative test is not a substitute for quarantining. So unfortunately, you would still have to quarantine even if you get another negative test. And yep, if you are quarantining, you can attend your classes remotely until the quarantine is over.
Jess, can I answer one? If students are from a quarantine state, there was an email that went out in the last 2 days to all of the students that are currently residing their permanent address in states that have travel restrictions. And we are allowing those students to come on the 21st. So if you happen to come on the 21st and you are in a traditional residence hall and you're moving into your own space, meaning you're the only person there, if you're in a double, you happen to both be from states with travel restrictions, or your unit has agreed to all live together, you can move directly into your space. If you come after the 21st and could be with other students, we have to make sure that we're looking at what space you're moving into, and then you may have to go straight to quarantine. We'll work directly with those students. We're hopeful that this number of students that applies to will continue to become smaller over the next couple of days. We've been really happy to see that some states have come off of that list. So hopefully if we all wear our masks in our own states, we won't have to have as many people in quarantine.
And so also if you're here and then your state goes on, I'm pretty sure you're good, right? RJ, we were talking about that recently, that if you're in Connecticut because you moved in on Saturday and then your state gets added to the list on Monday, that doesn't mean now you have to quarantine because you've been in the state.
Yep, that's correct.
And then I see a couple questions. They all vary by date, Jill, but so if they move in on August 23rd or their move-in date is August 22nd, can they stay on, can they start living on campus that day, regardless of the quarantine? People seem to be confused if they have to go home or leave or come back or what happens.
So early drop-off is just that. It's a drop-off. You can bring items. And as we mentioned earlier, and Norm can attest, we're still finishing up some things and making it look really good on campus. And we're really excited with some of the changes that we've made in the last couple of weeks, actually. So when students come back, and if you arrive on the 21st, if you happen to be from a state from travel restrictions, you can spend the night going forward from then. Or if you arrive on the 22nd or 25th, if you happen to be a returning student, or the 23rd or 24th, if you're a new student, you can stay after that. If you happen to participate in early drop-off, you can come back anytime beginning on the 24th. But we're just encouraging you to sign up for a time so that we're able to not have you wait too long to get your set of keys. Because again, remember, you're going to turn them back in and then we have to give them back to you. Does that make sense? Any additional questions?
I just included the link for all the travel advisory states somebody had asked.
Yeah, for a lot of the communications and announcements, you check out the COVID-19 page. So anytime there's an announcement that goes up, it's cataloged there. Also, we're working with our marketing communications to centralize all of our policies on one link. So that way you're not looking for them in multiple spaces on the website. So it's another great way to get information, particularly looking at the FAQs. Looking at some of the questions in here, a lot of that can be answered there. So please check out the COVID website for more information.
Jess, I think
yeah,
I think some parents are asking how some students are asking how the tutoring center will be functioning during the semester, as well as I think freshman parents and students are wondering if they're going to receive any training on using Blackboard.
Good questions. Yep, so our tutoring operation is functioning. We have many tutors returning. So you can still request a tutor, by going to the tutoring center or using Compass. So if you're a new student, you will learn all about Compass in your first year success seminar. There can be both in-person tutoring options and virtual tutoring. So the tutors are trained and prepared to do both. It's really the comfort level of the tutor and the ability to maintain the 6 feet distance and the comfort level of the tutee. So yes, we will absolutely have tutoring available. So training on Blackboard and then other types of technology training. So in your first year success seminar, your advisor will definitely go over the Blackboard with you. And on the COVID resource page, there's several, and we're continuing to build this out, but several links of how to use WebEx. You're on that now, so that's a good live training opportunity. But if your professors are using Zoom or WebEx or, again, how to use self-service, how to use Blackboard, how to use Compass, those links are becoming available. So we want to have all of that available to you as well. So probably through your first year seminar, but there will be a number of ways you can access other resources.
Yes, I want to answer just one quick question. It's come up a few times. So sometime in May, we said there might be a possibility the first 2 weeks would be remote only. That is not the case. So the classes won't start on the 26th. In-person classes will be on the 26th. And hybrid classes, remote, everything will be on the 26th. So we've tried to get that message out. We'll continue to get that message out.
Yeah. So it seems still there's a little confusion. I think it's the dates, the week. So early drop off starts when, Jill?
August 15th through 19th. So it starts Saturday and goes through Wednesday. And
Okay.
we have a day off. And then on Friday, the 21st, if you are from a state with a travel restriction, you may arrive. And then we do move in for returning students on that Saturday and then the following Tuesday. I think that's where it's a little bit confusing because they're not back to back in terms of 2 days for returning and 2 days for first year. We had to shift a little bit and we wanted to keep our first year dates the same. So we just shifted the others at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see another question about what percentage of residence halls will be occupied this fall. So we did quite a bit of de-densifying our spaces in our first year areas. Hawk Hall is, I think, at about 60%. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, something like that, Aaron, right? And then in terms of our complexes A through D, we also reduced the number of students on each side of those floors from 8 to 6. And it all has to do with restrooms. We really want students to not share fixtures more than one student to six, like 6 students to one fixture. So it looks a little bit different in Hawk because they're larger restrooms and they have larger occupancy in the restrooms. But on in the complexes, on the sides, the A through D, they have common restrooms. They have 1. So we wanted no more than 6 students using that one restroom because it's relatively small. In complexes E and F, there are 2 single-use restrooms on each side. So each there will be 4 students sharing one restroom, and those restrooms will actually be assigned to use. Students that are in suite and apartments, at most, actually, if you're in a 6-person apartment and we don't have many this year, there are 2 restrooms in there. 5-person units have 1 restroom and 4-person units have 1 restroom as well. So we really want to keep those numbers low because a restroom is where you don't always have your mask on.
So that it helps
Jill,
answer
my
the
boss.
question of having to wear a mask while brushing your teeth.
Correct. I mean, so I'm going to tell you, you're going to wear a mask other than when you are brushing your teeth and taking a shower. Like, you know, if you go in for other reasons, you know, you're blowing your hair dry or whatever, wear a mask. I know it's going to be different and it's going to be kind of weird. I don't do really well recognizing people with masks and then without. So, you know, it's going to be kind of strange, but we're going to make it work and we're all going to stay safe. So.
Jill, if I can do a quick
ahead.
2 questions, because I'm seeing a lot of people looking for the links, I think, to sign up for the move-ins.
So
where would people be able to locate those?
Correct. So students received a letter with their assignment last Thursday. That information is in the, is in the letter. And I know that people found it because we had, I think, 600 signups in about 2 hours and had forgotten to turn off the notification. Max had forgotten to do that. So he had 600 emails in 6 hours.
So Jill, don't kill me, but just to wrap up a number of some of these questions. So you were saying when early drop off is the 15th through the 19th, and then say a student's drop off day is move-in day is Saturday the 22nd. They live there now. They live here.
Correct. And
okay.
If you did early drop off, you can't come until the 24th because again, we're trying to social distance and not have as many people in residence as other people are coming. But yes, and actually if you are part of a state with a travel restriction, you can come and stay overnight beginning the 21st.
Okay, I think that helps. So if you do early drop off, you can't move onto campus until the 24th. But if your move-in day and you did not do early drop off, it's the 22nd or 23rd, you live here now. You don't have to come back another day.
And we are going to send out an email. I know that all of this is posted, but we will send out an email. We were talking with the SRAs today that will be tomorrow for the groups that are coming in the next couple of days, because we know that if we send stuff out too far in advance, it just gets lost in the shuffle. So while the information is out there, we will send you just kind of, again, what is it going to look like in those specifics so that hopefully you are able to, you know, you'll feel more confident with the information. It feels like a lot of information because, you know, especially if you're a first year student, like this is a big deal. Normally we don't have all these details that we have to attend to. So we'll figure it out together.
A couple questions specific to Hart. Backstage Cafe is going to be closed, right? So students were wondering about accessing food when they're at the PAC. And also, RJ, do you know if rooms are going to be available in the evenings and things too for practice? Because Hart traditionally could use those spaces throughout the 24/7.
Yeah, because of HART and aerosols. So what they're going to do is they're going to have to reserve spaces to practice. I mean, they can definitely practice. There'll be spaces, but they're going to be timed on like 8 to 10, 10 to 12. I don't know the exact schedule, so that the rooms can get flushed out in terms of air circulation.
Just to follow up on the dining portion, so for our folks over, that will be over at PAC. We have made some changes. There are some vending machines that have been added for some beverages and some snacks. We then have a robust program where you'll be able to go online, place your orders with us, and then we'll be delivering over to PAC at multiple times throughout the day in different meal periods. So you'll actually have more options available to you. You'll have the options available within GSU. So let's just say you wanted to order Moe's over at PAC, you'd be able to do that, and we'll be delivering that over to you at lunch. If you just wanted a simple sandwich or some grab and go, we'll have that available for you and be delivering that over to you as well. You'll have many options that you'll be able to customize for all of our guests over there. So you'll actually have more than you had actually before.
Kaz, I feel like I haven't utilized you enough tonight. Can you speak at all to parking passes, commuter parking passes, when they might be able to pick them up? Anything about parking passes in general?
I was content there, Jess. I was good. I hope I don't know what my computer sounds like. I hope I'm not piercing your ears with any feedback, but yeah, parking passes. So coincidentally, we put everything online this year, hoping to save everyone from having to get stickers. And coincidentally, me and Dean Isaacs decided everyone needs stickers to get on campus. So, so parking passes are going to be virtual, really. So everything will be done online. You literally, your license plate will be your parking pass. So just sign up online off our website, and you can pay for your permit online. Your car information's done. So everything's virtual, and our computers read your plates, and that is your permit. But so let me speak about I was going to follow up with Aaron's intro there, just on the visitor policies and stuff. So we are putting together, I have stickers now that we're going to send out a guideline tomorrow internally, so everyone can view it, just on distributing stickers for current students, IDs and cars. So each student that comes to campus, current student, will need a sticker for their car just to get through the checkpoint kind of express process, so no one's getting stopped there. And we just ask that, we do ask that you respect the visitor policy as well, just to keep everyone safe and healthy, right? That you're just coming to campus, we can get you through the main entrance just with a sticker, and that you're not bringing guests on campus that don't belong here. Again, like Dean Isaac said, it's a strict policy. Really, it's just to benefit and keep everyone healthy and safe. So.
Oh, Norm, I don't think you've had enough questions directed at you tonight. What kind of janitorial staff do you have cleaning all the facilities?
I'm glad you asked. Been working on this for a while. So you're going to see lots of new people on campus. We're supplementing our staff with lots of other staff contractors we're bringing in. We're training with them now. In the residence halls, where I think I did see one question about, I guess you can look at it this way. In the areas of Hawk Hall and complexes, we had been cleaning those once per day. That's going to continue. However, in both of those areas, we're going to visit them additional time, actually 3 additional times every day. That's a sanitization process, right? So in all common spaces and all residence halls, we're going to be in there about 4 times a day. Actually, not about, we are going to be in there 4 times a day. Those are stairwells, laundry rooms, the basements of the complexes that we recently did last year for those of you returning students. And In the apartments, it's going to be the same as it has been last year, where it's you are in your apartment, you're responsible for cleaning. However, within the apartment, we are going to leave you with some supplies. I'll list them. You're going to get a toilet caddy, you're going to get a plunger, you'll get a mop, you get a pail. We're going to give you some all-purpose cleaner, and we're going to give you some sanitizing spray. So that's something we thought was good. I think most schools are doing that, and it fulfills guidance that we've been given by the state and the CDC. So that's what we're going to do for you there. So I will tell you, in the academic side of campus, you will see something very similar to that. You will see our own custodial staff in there with additional staff all day long, sanitizing touch spaces such as doorknobs and stairwell rungs and inside elevators and things like that. You'll see a lot of people doing a lot of that all over campus.
So I want to give the panelists a minute to maybe look through the comments. I know we're coming up to 9:30, and see if there are comments and the Q&A, see if there's anything you feel you can address we haven't talked about. I know there's a lot of very specific questions to individuals about their move-in, their email. We'll probably just have to follow up with that. But take a moment and scan through and see if there's anything you think is remaining that you want to address that hasn't been addressed yet with the remaining time that we have tonight.
So I have a question. I think this is Norm or Aaron. I see a question about, I've had laundry service. And so how are vendors going about being approved that come to campus? So if students have used a vendor for something and they want to make sure they're on the approved list, hopefully, who do they need to contact, or where would that information go?
For people, vendors accessing campus, that will be on our Access Campus policy. They can see a pre-approved list of vendors that we have. We will have contractors that will be coming on campus to do work, construction, and that is through our procurement office. They've given us guidelines in terms of social distancing and wearing PPE and having masks when coming on campus. So check out the campus access policy. There is an approved list of vendors on there that you can review.
Jess, I have a dark horse question here, which I feel like I'm obligated to ask from the panelists, simply because I think it's a conundrum that especially a large community of HART students will be facing. So as we have made efforts to group the HART students from certain divisions together in the same rooms, also we're acknowledging that some of their classes might be online. Will we be able to provide some assistance or practice rooms for them in case, say, they have conflicting schedules and one has to sing, and I'm sorry if I'm going to make this trivial, and the other one has to perform a monologue? Mm-hmm. It is a very real question. I'm afraid it might be the reality that a lot of students will be facing in HART.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump on, Yuli, and try to answer it as best as I can. HART has been all over this. Glad Adsit, Davis, they're totally have spent their entire summer doing nothing but focusing on COVID. So I would say work with your advisors, work with your program directors if you have that conflict. And HART will do their best they can to find space.
So, and I can answer that too. I have been in constant contact with the dean, Dean Davis, and also with Stephen Peer and Larry. Oh goodness, I can't think of his last name.
Alan Smith. Thank
you. Constantly in terms of housing students together from those programs, just because of the type of contact they have with one another. We wanted to make sure that their programs could continue and their academics would be disrupt them the least amount. Stephen Peer has reached out. He's going to go look at the spaces. Dean Davis said that he has seen those spaces before. So, we've tried to house people based on cohort. And then they will hopefully alternate classes in such a way that shouldn't be an issue. And we're just going to have to see how it goes, because even if you aren't part of HART, you could have a singing class or something else, or be sharing a double with someone else. And so I think it's going to really force all of us to talk to one another and to have some conversations that might be a little bit uncomfortable. but I'm really confident. One of the things I love about UHart students is just how creative they are. And when I don't have a solution, they're like, what about this? Like this room swap, if this person moves here and here and here and here, does that work? And I'm like, how did you figure that out? So I really think that people are going to work together to figure out how they can be successful academically. That's why you're here.
Yeah, a couple other things with Heart too is, so we have tents for Heart to practice outside. So there's 6 tents on campus and 3 tents at PAC, which is Performing Arts Center. I know we use a lot of acronyms, so we'll try to try to clarify that. So we're going to have the 9 tents. That's another additional space for those students to practice. And again, I think Jill said this, and you know this. Like the Heart crew, they're like a fraternity or sorority. They're very close with one another. So I'm assuming that they're going to share rooms. So like if 2 roommates have the same time in terms of practicing, if they have a roommate next door, I'm sure they're going to say, hey, just come over to my room and use my space. Maintaining social distancing and doing the right thing. But again, I think it'll all work out.
Question going off of that I've seen. Are the practice rooms going to be in use or able to be used, or are these tents in conjunction with or instead of? That was just something that I saw.
Practice rooms will be available as well as the tents. Is that the question, Jaden? Yep, they'll both be available.
So a couple of questions I'm seeing about students that might want to switch to remote at different times. So right now we have I guess you could call it a soft deadline of next Wednesday as when we want to know if you're planning on going remote for the fall. But we realize that might change based on your comfort level. So if you decide in 3-4 weeks that it's not for you, 2 weeks, whenever, and you want to continue on with your studies, but you don't want to be on campus any longer, you can absolutely contact CSS and let them know. But what you can't do is like pick and choose and cherry pick. so you can't say, well, I really don't like my politics class, so I'm going to take that one remote, but I'm going to go in person to these classes, to my art class and my fun classes. So that you can't do, but sure. I mean, we understand that this is fluid. I mean, we appreciate your patience with us and we want to do everything to accommodate you. So if you decide in a couple weeks that remote is a better fit for you, that is totally fine. But just we want to avoid the going back and forth and kind of like willy-nilly, thing. So I have a question for my panelists that came in as attendees. Did you have to enter your email or any information about yourself? Okay. So we want to make sure that, we do answer all your questions, but I don't think especially the very specific ones will be realistic to do tonight. So if you have unanswered questions that weren't answered, you could do the COVID, I'm going to make sure I get it right, the COVID-19@hartford.edu email. Megan, they're coming for you to get questions answered, and Megan can redirect. And, I know I see some people saying that they haven't gotten a response. I can say I sincerely apologize for that. Please email the COVID account. You can also email ResLife, but we know you guys are kind of backed up right now, right? So there's probably a couple-day delay. So you can absolutely email ResLife, but there might be a little delay there. But we'll also we can follow up on your questions. It's easy when you have your first and last name in. It's a little harder when your name with the question is Jim or Bob for us to find you and follow up. But we'll definitely look into it. And some people had asked if this was recorded. This is recorded. So, we can share with others as well. And we can certainly do something like this again if students are requesting it. So Jaden, Yuli, let us know who people want to hear from, what the outstanding questions are, and we certainly can do that as we get ready to come back. Any final remarks from the panelists?
This is Norm. Just thought I'd let everybody know that one change you'll see is lots of outdoor furniture when you come back. You'll see lots of tents. You'll see lots of Adirondack chairs. You'll see picnic tables. You'll see some seating outside of the commons. Lots of things. So that's a good way to actually be able to connect with friends and others on campus when you're outside. So we think it'll work.
Question on that for Norm. I think that's a fantastic idea. I love the fact that we're going to have more outside things. Are we going to be able to have things to clean those down with available there? So we know that we ourselves can do it, or is that going to be something that more janitorial staff would be doing?
Yeah, outdoor areas are going to be different. We're going to be asking people to pretty much take care of that themselves. That's a different thing.
Great, thank you. And I did have just like a closing remark, if everyone's okay, I do that. I just really want to thank everyone who came on and asked questions and things. Like, we know that it's a really hard time. And as a university, I feel like it's great that we came together and we had so many people here. And the panelists, the rest of you, I want to thank you guys for coming on behalf of the students that I've spoken with and some of that were texting me during this, that we just really appreciate as students taking the time. So thank you.
I was thinking about opening remarks and closing remarks, and I've been here. This will be my 12th year, I think. And I consider UHart home, like many of the people. Some of our panelists are alums as well, and really consider UHart home. And it's not the most professional thing to say, but we know this sucks. I mean, it sucks. It sucks for you guys. It sucks for us. Like, this is not the University of Hartford that we want for the fall, but we are doing what we have to do to be safe and make sure that you get the education and what you want out of your semester. But we recognize, like, we're not enjoying this as much as you're not enjoying this, and we really love this place and we want to put everything into making it a successful fall. But we really appreciate, like Jaden said, coming out, listening, asking questions, and we just need more of that as we go into the fall. But we feel you. We're trying to put on a smile and a happy face, but we feel you. We love this place and we want it to be like we're used to, and it's not this semester. But we know, Jill said, we'll be okay. We'll get through it. We'll be okay. So thank you everybody so much for coming. I am so impressed with the number of students and parents and families and people who came on tonight. And thank you so much to the panelists, especially the students for joining us tonight, because that's really who we want to hear from. And again, we'll do something like this and send your questions along. So thank you everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Can't wait to see you all soon.